Hey guys, Deanna here with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Support for Label Free Podcast is brought to you by Impression Derma, who has experienced increased exposure to HEV light over the last year and a half. I know I have. If you don't know what HEV light is, let me educate you. HEV light is emitted from your phone, tablet, and computer that penetrates deep into the skin, which can lead to wrinkles and increased harm, leaving permanent damage. I have found a solution that protects you from those harmful lights. Let me introduce you to Impression Derma Let's Face It. This product will increase collagen, promote hydration, improve elasticity, halt premature aging, and shield against those free radicals, all by using these key ingredients: algae, buriti oil, bamboo extract, raspberry seed oil, bloom light, plus many others that are sustainably sourced and produced as well as ethically traded. Please head to impressionderma.com and use code labelfree20 for 20% off. Again, please head to impressionderma.com and use code labelfree20 for 20% off. What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Super excited. I have this gorgeous woman here in front of me. She is an award-winning founder and principal owner of True Perception. She helps corporate communicate. She helps with corporate communication, crisis communication. Did I say that right?
You're saying it right.
Okay. All right. I thought I may have screwed that up here. And she also has a book out called The Truth About Scandal, the Everyday Guide to Navigating Business Crisis. Please welcome Melissa Del Rey. Melissa, thank you for joining us today. Can you please tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Yes. I have been working with CEOs and executives for 22 years. My specialty is good ways to deliver bad news. So any kind of crisis, chaos, controversy, issues, really though in the everyday business related crisis, we rarely find ourselves in the news. Right. But every single day, someone is sending us a nasty gram, or we find out we've made a misstep, or we have to lay off a whole division of our company. Sure. How do we manage through that everyday business related crisis so that we don't end up in a public scandal? We don't end up having everyone looking at us saying that we made the worst missteps in the world. I've done this and really nothing but this my entire career. I love what I do. And I want to help anyone, whether they're a CEO or, we're all CEOs of our own life, yes. Right? Yes. We all have an organization, a family, a friend group, something that we're trying to keep in a good position. Yeah. And we are constantly being hit by people discrediting us, calling us names, diminishing our credibility, and a lot of it is nuance, and it's called passive aggressive, yeah. But it's downright attacks on who we are as people. And the average person isn't sleeping at night. They are struggling. They are guilt-ridden. They don't think the best of themselves. They're the worst critic of themselves. And most of it is because moment after moment after moment, they don't know what to say, yeah. When they're attacked. They don't know what to say when they're called into question, and then they beat themselves up. Yeah. And maybe they figure out what they maybe would have said, but then in the heat of the emotion, they can't say it. So
yeah, and I think it's even more prevalent what you do, especially in today's world with social media and just how everything is so like anything that happens is out there like now. So like if you are a public figure, or you are not talking about being in your friend groups or what have you, if you do one wrong move, like that can be out there in a second, and everybody you're connected to can find that out. It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, and it could be something you did 20 years ago.
Yeah,
when you had no maturity level to be able to recognize the consequences of what you might say later in life. Oh, I'm trying to close my email. Hopefully that worked. So you don't hear all those things.
That's all right. Real world here. I had a recording earlier, and my dog Athena, she was jumping in saying hi. So
yeah. I watched a bunch of your podcasts the other day, and I was positive that I saw you throw a pillow at either a dog or a cat. I wrote it down. So I think she threw a pillow at a dog or a cat.
Yes, it was probably one or either or both. I don't know. They kind of get a little antsy sometimes when recording. So yeah, I gotta tell them to shut up or something. But no, I love that. So what does that look like when somebody wants to like consult with you, and what is your process in that regard, and helping them stay on track and that they're presenting their brand right,
Right,
basically.
right. Most people approach me when they have a problem. So
Okay.
a crisis has hit, they're afraid their reputation is in jeopardy, or they're trying to change something about their career. So it could be that they want to get on a board of directors, or they want to be a CEO, or they just have a bad behaving boss. So they start with me because they have a problem, and then they want me really just to fix that one problem. But I try to get people to see crisis management more like crisis avoidance. So
Sure.
how do you truly define yourself ahead of people calling you into question? So I start by either fixing, I kind of triage, like we got to stop the bleeding. If
Right.
you
Yeah.
have a crisis, I come in, I tell you exactly what to say, who to say it to, whether to stand or sit, what color to
Oh,
be wearing,
wow.
what word to begin with, whether your voice ought to go on a downward inflection or an upward inflection, every single nuance that can help you come out of any crisis with your reputation intact and get all the results. And as I'm sort of stopping that bleeding, I'm thinking, okay, what's the long term health of
Yeah.
this individual? How can I establish in them? Really, I want to reestablish a communications ethic so that people always know how to stay true to who they are,
Right.
and still speak against what's coming at them. And people do not know how to do that right now. So how I do that is I build something called a copy bible. You could call it a strategic message set, a copy guide. I call it a copy bible because way back in the day when I worked for Maytag Appliances, they had a stellar brand. You may remember
Yes.
Old
Yes.
Lonely, right? They
Yeah.
were brilliant at how they did branding, and they would lock us in a room and force us to memorize what they called a copy bible, so that anytime we went to the media or a trade show or talked to a customer, we would be committed to memory all of the things about the product.
Right.
And I love that. It made sense to me. So now I create copy bibles for humans, not for
Okay.
washers and dryers, right? So what is true for you? Most people run into problems because they've never defined what's true for them. So
Mm.
somebody comes at them and they say, well, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
And now they are creating a sound bite that can be misused against them because they parroted back what somebody was saying that was negative about them or about their products or services. And I write all that. I author everything for them. The line about who they are. Now they tell me their story.
Sure.
I'm gifted in two ways. I can hear somebody speak,
Yeah.
and that comes through in my writing. So if I were to write something for you, you would say that sounds exactly like me.
Yeah.
Because when I hear you talk, I can learn your voice and I can write that. And then I'm really good at content, at compelling content to keep you out of trouble. So when
Sure.
somebody comes to me, I fix their problem, I build a copy Bible, I teach them about power phrases. And I was so intrigued by your podcast, and I saw so many commonalities to what you're passionate about and what it is that I do. And that's why I was, I want to talk to you. Because of your concept of living label free.
Yeah.
And my entire book and all the work I do is to have power phrases to allow you to affirm what is true about you. What is it that you would say about you? And that's stronger even than denying what somebody is saying that isn't true about you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that we've all been in that situation where we want to like, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. I try not to go there anymore. Luckily, I've got my relationships are pretty good. I'm living on the straight and narrow, like. But back in the day, woo, girl, I may have probably would have needed you a couple times. Like, my mouth would just be on doing its own thing. So I think that I see you've done some work for 3M, Carlson Companies, Maytag, and Ameripride. I actually used to do some work for Ameripride. We did in my previous business, we supplied them with their transmissions. So what is
Oh,
that like when you're working with a big brand versus like a more like an individual?
have a tendency to prefer the mid-sized companies and individuals because the big conglomerations like 3M, bless their heart, they have a lot working against them. It's
Sure.
almost like their brand becomes a monster that controls everything.
Yeah.
And people start to operate under the fear of the brand potentially being tarnished. And that leads them to be less authentic in what's happening.
Oh,
So
wow.
if I were to today try to go into big organizations, I wouldn't be able to have the impact that I want to have. One, there's an entourage of people
Sure.
in big organizations, and they are all threatened, especially by someone like me who says, we shouldn't do any of that corporate speak. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be talking in any way that blurs what it is that we're actually saying. Really, I believe that's why I started my own company. I was not a good employee. I was not someone that the big companies thought would keep them safe.
Sure.
And even safe is an emotionally charged word.
Yeah.
It has connotations to it historically that had to do with, am I going to lose my job or not? Now it has to do with, am I going to harm somebody else with a virus, harm myself?
Right.
That particular word is so emotionally charged because the opposite is such a negative connotation. And so these are things that I would work against, but the big companies aren't receptive to it as much. So
Right.
what typically happens, like the 3M and Eco Lab, I'm talking about mostly companies here in Minnesota that I work with, the most Target, those kinds of companies, I have a tendency to work with either a senior executive, a middle manager, or sometimes an individual contributor, because they are in a tough position.
Yeah.
They're trying to be CEO of themselves, advocate, get promotions, have their work seen as quality, and make serious contributions. And they're working against this structure
Right.
that
Yeah.
is created to protect a brand. And yes, you need to protect your brand, but not at the expense of authenticity.
Yeah.
And we have a culture, and I'm sure you know this and your listeners would agree, we won't stand for the corporate speak and the being talked down to anymore. And so it's only a matter of time before these middle-sized companies are going to become the powerhouses.
Sure.
Because we are going to spend our money with them rather than these big companies. But sometimes the big companies become monsters and their products are so good. And look at Amazon. God bless you, Amazon.
Yeah.
I use you, even though when I try to sell my book through Amazon, I think I make $1.50.
That's
And when I sell it straight out, because Amazon has a fee structure that does not lift up small business owners. And, that's their model, and we want to be a part of it. So we do that typically.
Yeah. That's very true. And so I'm curious, like, so when someone's looking to upgrade their career and they come to you, what does that look like? Because because you're almost like a PR / coach / I don't know, communications expert. Like it's a very interesting what you do. I've never talked to someone like you before.
Yeah, I used to say way back in the day before I was even focused a lot on how to represent my own brand, I used to say I'm like the old guy behind the curtain making the Wizard of Oz look good. Only I'm not old and I'm not a guy. I used to say that. and then I upgraded. I upgraded even how I talk about myself, that I help CEOs and individual contributors manage their reputations, right? So it doesn't matter if you need a better job, if you have a bad behaving boss, a critical coworker, if you want to sit on a board of directors instead of only being a CEO, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, how I can help you is based solely on communication.
Yeah.
Communication can do two things for you. It can change a perception and it can change a behavior.
Okay.
So people, when they want to upgrade their career, the reason they're struggling is they don't know how to communicate in a way that's going to help them. They don't know how to write proof points. A proof point is what is true about me in the past that if you saw it in a sound bite, either on my resume, on my LinkedIn, or coming out of my mouth, that would make you know in 10 seconds or less that I could change your life, that I could make your company better. People don't know how to do that. They know how to talk about the stuff they did.
Yes.
I show them how to talk about the results they brought, and in such a way that a listener sees themselves in those results. And it's very simple. And it's not even my own intellectual capital. You could go on my website and you could download a worksheet to show you exactly how to write a proof point. You could go to my LinkedIn, Melissa Del Rey, Delay. Look at my LinkedIn. You'll see proof points. You could copy them and paste them and take out my words, put in your words. And I don't even call that plagiarism. I gladly will give it to anyone because we just don't know how to talk about ourselves in a favorable enough manner. Some people are either humble. I'm not. I don't have a humble bone in my body. Anyone that's ever worked with me, they would say, I don't want to be as brazen as you are. You don't have to be. But you don't want to be a little turtle underneath the shell going, it wasn't me. It was the team. Well, the team's going to get your promotion. The team's going to get your salary, right?
What is good, everyone? Deanna here with Label Free Podcast. Autumn is in the air. The pumpkins are in the patch. And our friends at Manscaped are here to make sure your man doesn't carve his pants pumpkins when he's grooming, if you know what I mean. Make sure he's keeping things fresh this fall with the leaders in male grooming and their brand new 4th edition performance package. Ladies, do we really want to cuddle up with a dude who isn't trimmed? I know I don't. My man's keeping it tight. Get him to take the leap into fall with Manscaped. Help him join the 2 million men worldwide using Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code LABELFREE20. Again, go to manscaped.com and use the code LABELFREE20 for 20% off and free shipping. Exactly. And I think that women are more prone to like being hiding in the shell than men. Do you work with more women than men?
I work, and I always say that I will work with both, but my funny story about men and women and who I've worked with over the years, I will hear women going out in networking events and they will say, oh, Melissa Del Rey, she wrote this for me. Melissa is amazing. She coaches me. Melissa. My male clients, Melissa Del Rey, never heard of her. That's what they say. Now, here's what I want you to pause on. I'm okay with that. I would rather my female clients show up, speak their eloquent words, come from a position of power, and own that for themselves. But they are so prone, naturally, they are so prone to want to give credit where credit is due. They lean more nurturing. They care. And that's all great. And I always say, definitely give me credit by referring me. Give me credit by paying my invoices, but don't give me public recognition when I am behind the scenes. I'm your secret weapon. I'm helping you be the best version of you. But men have this natural tendency to show up and be strong and not mention me. Now, they still pay my invoices and they still give me a referral, but they are in a place that is more naturally good for their career. Now, are those guys warmer, more kind? I don't know. But all I know is in the field of communication, women are a detriment to themselves and they don't know how to say thank you. I train my female clients to say the phrase thank you with a downward inflection of their voice and sit and wait for more compliments to come in, and then say, I appreciate that. I'm so glad that you benefited. It's painful. They are in physical agony to say the word thank you, to accept a compliment. Now, men, on the other hand, their detriment is they're not usually willing to raise their hand and say, I need this kind of coaching.
Right.
They will call a lawyer and they will call an accountant. But I believe since we've all been speaking since we were 2 and writing since we were 7, this is a very sensitive area, and men do not want to seem weak in any way. Women are like, hey, I need more coaching, help. We don't have a problem there. So each gender temperament, and know that some women lean more in the direct and power ways too. But in general, those gender temperaments, they each have their downfalls.
Of
So we
course.
can't just look at one and say, wow, they got it all, and the other is like, I'm so much at a disadvantage. It's not true. We just have to look at ourselves and say, okay, where is it that I need to stay true to who I am? Like, you don't have
Yeah.
to change who you are, but
Yeah.
how do you use words, tones, and gestures to advocate and strengthen yourself at least 80% of the time? 20% of the time, use your get out of jail free card,
Yeah.
because you're human and you're not going to say everything right. Your hair isn't going to fall perfectly every single time. You are going to stumble over a word. You might put something out on social media and wish you hadn't. And there's a way to course correct, but you most of the world is out there leaning on 80% as a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
They're paying it.
Yeah.
They're just wandering through life and hoping it's all going to work out, because they don't realize that this discipline of how you communicate and how you show up is more powerful than anything else.
Yeah.
Anything.
I love that. That's very true. And as far as the thank you is, I used to have a hard time with that, but I became a life coach many, many years ago. I don't practice, but that was something I had to learn to do, is to accept a compliment and just say thank you. And it is very uncomfortable at first to get to say thank you and just be like, accept it, and I have gotten to the point where, they keep complimenting me, like, I appreciate that, well,
Yeah.
there's not much more I can say. Okay, thanks.
Yep. I had a friend come over years ago, and I might have written about this in the book, but if I didn't, I talk about it a lot. And I was actually babysitting her son. Her and her boyfriend were going to go out to dinner or to a concert. And she walks in, her son was probably right behind her. And she came in and I said, oh, you look so beautiful. I love your outfit. You look beautiful. And immediately she started saying, oh, what? I gained some weight. I don't like how I look. And this is awful and awful. And I said, hold on. I can't have you speak that way about my friend.
Yeah.
Please come back in and let's say hello again. And we know each other. We're both in the field. So she was like, oh, you're right. And she went out and she came back in and I said, oh, you look so beautiful. And she said, thank you.
I love that. That's a great story. That is a great story. Where can people find you, contact you, connect with you? Where can you please plug all your links really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is if you look at the very back of my book, on the absolute last page, I put my cell phone number in my book. I tell people 763-670-6701. They can contact me. My email, my personal email, and my cell phone number are in the book, because you wouldn't believe how many times people reach out to me and they say, I wasn't sure if I should, but here's this problem. I don't want people to suffer.
Right.
And so they can reach me. You can reach me at trueperception.com. I also have a new program, entertheboardroom.com.
Oh, okay.
That is really reasonable for anyone on a monthly subscription basis. And you could be a member for 1 month, you could be a member for a year. And it allows you to have access to all of my power phrases and my copy Bible. I do videos on how to ask specifically for a promotion, how to ask for a raise, how to do all of the things that I'm talking about. And that program, it's my baby. Like, I love my book. I do, but my book is 2018.
Yeah.
The boardroom is 20 right now.
Yeah.
It is 20 right now. And I designed it for people who aspire to be CEO of themselves.
Yes.
And they may be a marketing manager, they may be an accountant, they could be anyone, and they are swimming through the cesspool of corporate America, of small business ownership, of anything, and struggling. So entertheboardroom.com is probably the best place to go, but call me, email me. You can send me a singing telegram and I would reply. I'm in the field of communication. All I want to do is talk to people and hear their story and help them.
I love that. That is awesome, you guys. I will put all of her links in the show notes, so please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll even put her phone number in there in case you don't get the book, but go get the book. I think it would be very helpful. And I think in any area of your life, there's probably a lot of value in there just to communicate and deal with crisis on a personal level. So I think that that would be helpful for everyone. I always like to ask my guests, any last words? You did drop a lot of great wisdom, though. You did drop a lot of great stuff. I'm like, oh yeah. That, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can connect with what you were talking about. Any last words of wisdom or advice you'd like to leave with the audience before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I want people to find the balance between being disciplined and kind to themselves, right? And that is one of the hardest balances to make. You can be disciplined in how kind you are to yourself.
Yeah,
I think we have a huge population of people out there that are beating themselves up and constantly criticizing themselves. And I have to work more to get people to say kind things about themselves than even fighting attacks that are coming from outside. So be kind to
yeah,
yourself, like yourself,
yeah.
see the good, try to ignore the bad. Exaggerate what it is that you're good at, and no more performance reviews where people come in there and say, let me tell you what you're struggling on, where you need to work. No, thank you. No,
Yeah,
thank you. Tell me the areas that I could get stronger. We
yeah,
don't need people telling us we suck. We
yeah.
tell ourselves that all day long. So don't tell yourself that anymore, because
I
you don't.
love
It's wonderful.
I love that. Thank you, Melissa, so much for being a guest. It was a great, I had a great time talking to you and hearing your story and everything that you do to help people just have a better view on themselves and presenting themselves better. I think it's very interesting what you do, and it's definitely necessary. So if I ever need a leg up in the corporate world, I'm going to come to you.
You should. You should.
I'm like,
Well,
I need that raise, Melissa. How do I get that raise?
well, and if it's somebody in the business world who's
Yeah.
not paying an invoice, right?
Oh,
That I love to do too. I love to help people collect on
yeah.
anything anybody owes them, right?
I've never had a problem collecting because I can be a motherfucker when it comes to that excuse language. Like, no. You're not gonna mess with my money, man.
I know, keep the money close.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, you guys, this is your host, Deanna Kuempel of Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, follow, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.